Hello.
She thinks my tractor's
Oh
sick.
my god. Don't start that shit again. Ah,
Wait, wait. I need to show you this clip. I I am in love with the Basement Yard, by the way. They're all I've been listening
aren't
to, all I've been watching.
aren't they wonderful?
They are. I want to play
And
this clip
like,
for you.
okay.
Holy shit. Oh, fuck! Yeah. My throat hurts. My stomach will thank us. It's apple cider vinegar. Holy shit.
I have watched that clip at least 15 times and it makes me die every time. It's so fucking funny.
So I am a total sucker for them. I love them so much. And like, I normally have a hard time listening to like man-centric podcasts, but
Mhm.
listening to them, it's like the male version of Ladies and Tangents.
Yeah.
And even though, and they're dudes and they do talk about like their balls and stuff, but that's just being a dude. They're like not offensive and they try to be correct and they're just like normal, like good humans.
Yeah.
But I love them so much that I ended up paying for their Patreon
I
so I
did
can
too.
get the exclusive episodes. Dude, you need to go watch immediately the episode where they play Tapple
Okay. I
because
haven't yet.
I'm gonna find it so I can send it to you, so you know exactly which one it is because I could have pissed my pants the first, third, and fifth time that I listened to that episode. Like I'm not a big re-listener. That episode fucking kills me every time.
I just
Like,
watched, I think it was a Patreon video, but it's one, the title's like The Whitest Women in America or something, and they're both wearing wigs. It's the funniest thing.
yes.
I love them.
And that's something too, like they're not like insecure in their masculinity or their
Yeah,
sexual orientation or anything. They just like do whatever.
yeah. But yeah, this is Educate Me Papa. Welcome back, Poppies. You should go listen to The Basement Yard if you haven't, because they're fabulous.
Yes, I completely agree, and I might be partial, but I skipped all of the beginning episodes and went only to the ones where it's Frankie and Joe because their best
That's what
friend
I did too.
dynamic is just the best. Like the earlier ones
Yeah,
aren't bad, but there's something different about two best friends doing a
yeah,
podcast,
yeah.
you know,
Yep.
especially with a history that is as long as theirs. So, but you
Mhm.
should also listen to our podcast and go watch our YouTube videos because we launched YouTube what, like 4 weeks ago now,
Yeah.
or maybe something like that. So we're working
And
on getting those up there.
And I'm trying to figure out how to add fun little visuals and stuff and like edit photos to put into the video. So it won't just be our faces the whole time. It'll be very entertaining. Once we both get the hang of it, it's going to be really fun.
Yes, and my Mothman episode, I did use iMovie on my iPad, which is a whole debacle, not a debacle, a whole like saga that I won't go into, but it ended up being great with the way that I added those little details and I'm very proud of it. So if you would go watch it and even if you like skip through parts if you've already listened or whatever and you just look at the little edits and stuff, I would be very grateful.
I'm so sad though cuz the one after the Akali experiment, my episode, I edited that whole video and I added some really funny like edits into it. Like what there's one part where we're talking about how we're at Madison's apartment and that Kenny Chesney song starts playing underneath us, and I like overlaid a really horrible photo of Kenny Chesney over
They're all
our
horrible.
faces. I don't know, it was just so fun, and then it cut the whole thing out when it uploaded. So I got to figure out what to do. So yeah,
Yeah, that is weird. I wonder, I couldn't be violating any guidelines.
no,
So,
I don't
interesting.
know.
But yeah, I would love to see that. I mean, if we don't get it on YouTube, send it to me.
Yeah, I will. Maybe I'll make it into like a clip or something.
Yes, that would be beautiful because
Hell yeah.
it's just so fun.
So how you do?
I do pretty good. This week has been busy, but generally uneventful. Was it this week? Yeah, I think it was this week, Monday. I finally got my heater fixed. So, bought the one part, it was perfect. Then the guy found another part broken. He got it within like 2 days and came and put it in. So, we have had heat. But then we got the heat turned back on Monday. It was a little chilly Tuesday, and then Wednesday, yesterday, and today it has been like 72 degrees, which is wonderful. I'm definitely not complaining. That's like 70-degree fall weather is my favorite type of weather. It's
Hmm.
just so funny that, like, hey, I finally got this fixed and it's warm again. But if my furnace being fixed means more warm weather, I'll leave my furnace working. I mean, I turned it off right now because it's too warm to run the furnace, but
Yeah, I was just thinking 70-degree weather is like summertime weather in Gold Beach. Like it sounds like it's boiling hot. When I know in reality it's not that hot. It's just like the perfect temperature, but
yeah. Oh, with the ocean mist breezing on you. I don't know. I was gonna say misting on you. That works too, I guess.
oh man.
Did you listen to the most recent episode of LNT?
The Patreon one?
No, the regular one about the Bermuda Triangle.
I've kind of fallen behind because like I said I've been stuck on the basement yard, so I got to catch up.
Okay. I don't blame you for being stuck on the basement yard. As soon as one of their new videos comes out, I listen to it almost immediately and I kind of get sad when it's over. But like I was saying, you got to find that Tapple one. I can't figure out which one it is right now because I'm trying to focus on this, but I will try to figure it out so you can watch that one immediately because holy shit. Have you ever played Tapple?
No, I don't know what that is.
So it's a game and it's a board that has buttons on the outside and it's all of the letters of the alphabet except V, X, and Z. And you draw a card and you get a category and you set the timer and everyone in the circle has to go and like say something in that category, press the letter down and then hit the button.
Mhm.
And in the video, Frankie and Joey play it, but they put their own spin on it, and it's so hilarious. And I had never played it either, but I really wanted to. And then at the Halloween party I went to last weekend, they whipped it out, and we were drinking. So we started to play it, and everyone got distracted because it's a party. And then for
Mhm.
some reason, there were like 5 or 6 of us sitting around the table, and every song that came on, we would try to pick out a lyric that went with with the letters. And it's so funny because you would think that more letters would be used, but there were a lot of songs where there were still 3 or 4 letters up on the board. But it was,
Yeah,
oh my gosh, it's so fun and that
it
episode's so
sounds
great.
fun. I'm excited to watch it.
Yes, I can't wait to hear what your reaction is because honestly, I think it might be the funniest episode of theirs. Although I haven't gone back into like the old Patreon,
Mhm.
which I need to, but that one I listened to it by myself the first time, made Chloe listen to it with me, and then I think I listened to it again by myself, but at home instead of in the car. I don't know. I could listen to it right now. But the reason I brought up Ladies and Tangents, which kind of sent us into this spiral, is because on their most recent episode, they, in the beginning, addressed the situation that's going on in Israel,
Dude,
Palestine, and I always forget the G one, and I can't say it
Gaza?
very well. So, yes, Gaza, thank you. I don't know what I was thinking. But I will say personally, I'm not very up on what's happening. I know the basics of it, so I don't want to speak on it. If you want to hear, like, even just a little bit more, Jerry and Sierra do touch on it in that episode, but I just thought it was important to address what's going on and say that my heart goes out to all of the victims. And
Wallet agrees.
yes.
Myself more on the situation with Palestine. But I am with Palestine 100% from what I've seen. It's genocide
Yes.
completely. And
Yes.
it makes me want to cry. Um, and it makes me really mad that I'm seeing all these lies on like mainstream news. Um, I don't know. I don't want to speak too much about it because, like I said, I'm not overly educated on it. But yeah,
Right. And especially with it being an ongoing issue, it's kind of hard to discuss. Um, but I'm on the side of people allowing other people to exist regardless of their identity, beliefs, whatever.
yeah,
And from what I know, I'm on the side of Palestine as well. But I
yeah.
would also say that I am on the side of the innocent people in Israel and Gaza who are also being affected by the
No,
choices that
totally.
their leaders are making. Um, but yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge the situation. I think that that's at least the least that I can do, and just always acknowledge that everyone deserves human rights, and I'm not religious or whatever, but everyone deserves the right to practice their religion safely as long as they're not affecting other people with it. And
Yeah.
that goes everywhere. So, again, if you want more information, go listen to the Ladies and Tangents episode about the Bermuda Triangle. They have a discussion in the beginning about it, and they do have more education. They don't go into it a ton, but Jerry also shares some messages from her friend who is native to that area. So,
There's a dog loose outside. That's why they're freaking out.
oh, I would be freaking out too. I'd be like, "Come here, puppy." We
But yeah,
have
I'm
a
interested to see or to hear what they have to say about it because I knew they would speak about it because
mhm.
they're really good about that. But yeah,
Yeah. I don't want to like steal thunder from them or anything. I just wanted to kind of use them as a jumping off point, and also
yeah,
because I love them and want people to listen to their show as well.
hell
Um
yeah.
but onto a bit of a softer subject, since you are talking about a dog being loose outside. Did I tell you about the cat that we have that visits our yard frequently?
I don't think so.
So it's a cute little black cat. It's not a kitten. It does look to be full grown but young. I'd say somewhere probably around 1 or 2 years old. And
Hmm.
it's got the cutest little white muzzle, and at least two of its paws have little white socks on them. And
Cute.
um he hangs around the house a lot. We also don't know the gender, obviously, because it's not like a dog where you can see wean. Um but
Queen.
it was outside of the window one day. It looked like it was hunting. So I did a bad thing and threw some tuna out the window, but it had already ran away. I don't know if it came back and ate it, but it came back one day, and Megan and I were watching it out the window, and we watched it catch a mouse
Damn.
outside of our window. And we were like, "You go, kitty. You eat and you keep our house mouse free." So we have adopted it as our yard cat, and I'm thinking about building it a little winter shelter because I it always runs off towards the creek. So I can't tell if it's like an outdoor cat that someone owns or where it might be
Hmm.
staying, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna make it one of those little outdoor cat shelters out of like the um big totes or whatever. But I love him, and when we watched him catch that mouse, it was beautiful. Like, just the circle of
Cute.
life, the animal kingdom, and the fact that it's keeping the mouse out of our house.
Exactly.
Yes.
You know what I learned today about Wallet? It's kind of sad,
What? Oh
but
no.
I I got him. My coworker, her neighbor, had him first, and she ended up getting rid of him because she was moving, and he's a big dog, and she didn't have room. That's what she said.
Bullshit.
Um, but Brenda told me that he used to be outside 24/7 in whatever
Oh.
weather, and she said he would like hide underneath her neighbor's truck all the time, and it makes me want to cry because he's like afraid of going outside now.
I see. I thought you got him from a shelter.
I I was gonna get him from my coworker's neighbor, and I was trying to set it up, and then the neighbor just didn't get back to me and brought him to the shelter. That's when I went to pick
Oh
him up.
my God.
Yeah.
Wow. That was so, I'm sorry, that's so unnecessary to put him through the trauma of being at a shelter, but obviously that neighbor didn't care, and I'd like to know who this neighbor is so when I come to Oregon I can punch them directly in the face.
Well, then a few months later, she got a German Shepherd puppy, and she's getting rid of that dog now too.
That's the worst kind of human. So,
It makes me so mad.
if people can't already tell, we're big animal lovers on this show, and I will die on this hill that there are very few reasons that are legit enough for you to get rid of your animal. I don't care
Yeah.
that you're moving and the place that you're going doesn't allow it, blah, blah, blah. Find somewhere that allows it or figure something out. And, there's, of course, there's extenuating circumstances, abuse, different things like that. But if you're just moving and the dog's too big, like that one, or whatever. Now, I know some people who had dogs that ended up being aggressive once they had kids. That's a different
Yeah.
situation, especially when the people that I am speaking of tried to acclimate the dogs and make things better, but for the safety of their children, they had to rehome them where they could be the only dog or with other dogs that were calm and not around children. That's an
I think
extenuating
that
circumstance, but you have to be responsible. These are living, breathing creatures.
I think that there's a huge stigma around rehoming pets, and I understand why there is, but I also think that if somebody, adopts a dog, a cat, or whatever, and it's not a good fit, like they weren't up to the challenge, they didn't research it enough, whatever, I think it's totally admirable to be like, hey, I messed up here. This dog deserves a better home than I can give them. So let me find a good home for them. I think
Yes.
I see so many people on like community pages getting bashed for saying exactly that, basically. And they end up taking their post down. And it's like, how does that help the dog? You know?
Right. Yeah, and I do agree with that. And of course, like I said, extenuating circumstances. And if you are really trying to do the best by the dog, I admire you. I understand. And it probably breaks their heart most of the time. But I
Yeah,
also know people
definitely.
like this person that you're speaking of who has gotten several dogs and gotten rid of them trying to find
Yeah.
the quote unquote perfect fit. And it's like, it's not a purse. You're not going to
Hmm.
TJ Maxx to try out a new bag or, shopping around for hairstylists. This is a living, breathing creature. And the people who bother me the most are the people who have a dog for a long time and then are like, sorry, got to get rid of it, we're moving. How do
Yeah.
you do that? You've developed a bond with that dog, and even if you don't feel it, that animal, cat, dog, lizard, whatever, feels it, and you are destroying them. And I do know of people who let their animals live outside all year, but most of those people give them access to a shelter, either a dog house that has a door to keep the snow out or a heated garage. Now, to just let your dog live outside 24/7, I can understand like people who have dogs that don't want to come in when they're like in the snow or even in the heat. My fucking chihuahua won't come inside when it's
Hmm.
overheat or too cold. I have to like go pick him up and bring him inside. You can't help that, but to just leave the dog with no safety at all
Yeah.
is animal abuse.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my stance
Hey,
on animals and trying to take care of them. But anyways, yes,
hey,
Papa PP.
what are you going to educate us on, Papa?
Well, today I will be educating you on Thanksgiving and the true origins behind it. I will give a trigger warning at right up top here for mentions of killing, genocide, um, colonists, white people, just in general. But yeah, I even made some notes about what I want to say to preface it because this human rights is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart.
Me too.
Being a woman, but also being a gay woman, and just being or attempting to be a decent human being as much as I can, and also trying to continually educate myself on the injustices that other people have endured because of people of my race. Um, so I just really thought it was important, with it being right now, it's the end of October, but next month.
Yeah, perfect.
So with this episode coming out on the 1st of November, and November, being Thanksgiving month, I thought that it would be really good to share this, because I educated myself on a lot of the research, but also to educate others, especially if they're not exposed to this type of thing. So, yeah, we're going to talk about Thanksgiving. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
November brings thoughts of Thanksgiving, gathering around with family and friends to feast and make note of all we are thankful for. While I do celebrate Thanksgiving with my family each year, I try to consciously take note of how Thanksgiving truly got started. While I enjoy taking time to spend with family and think about all I have to be grateful for, I try to take time on my own to acknowledge the dark truths behind the holiday. So, I think it's important for me to acknowledge that I do celebrate Thanksgiving. It's more of a traditional type thing, and I mostly do it because I enjoy the family gathering part of it. That's really my favorite part about holidays in general.
Hmm.
Um, and it's just become a custom, and especially now that I have a partner, we celebrate with her family every year, and it's something I do celebrate, but not necessarily internally joyfully. Although I do love some good Thanksgiving food. So,
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the only reason you know, I mean, when I was younger, it was more like a family gathering type thing. And that
hmm
was before I was even aware of the fact that we were lied to for our entire childhood about this. But
right.
yeah, the food's the only reason that I enjoy it anymore.
Yeah.
And I can make that
Yeah.
food any day. It doesn't have to be Thanksgiving.
Right. I'm trying to be conscious of how lucky we are that we're able to celebrate something like this, and that we
Yeah,
are falsely celebrating it.
yeah, agreed.
Yeah. In the United States, at most public schools, and I would assume many private schools, we learn about Thanksgiving as a day that celebrates pilgrims landing in the New World. To start out, I'm going to share what we know Thanksgiving to be as it is taught in the white world, or the American public school world. And this is what they've always told us, and what textbooks say, at least when I was still in school, and I'm assuming still to this day. In September 1620, a small ship called the Mayflower left Plymouth, England. Aboard the ship were 102 people, all of whom were nope, all of whom were called religious separatists, a group of people who were seeking a new home in which they could freely practice their faith. The journey from Plymouth to the New World took 66 days, and the boat dropped anchor near the tip of Cape Cod. This was much further north than their intended destination of the Hudson River. A month later, the ship crossed Massachusetts Bay, where the Pilgrims began establishing a village. Most of the colonists remained on the ship during the winter, and only half of them survived the exposure, scurvy, and outbreak of other contagious diseases. So they landed in September, ended up like where they have quote unquote Plymouth Rock in November,
Hmm.
and then most of them lived on the ship for the winter because I assume they weren't sure how they were going to build at that point.
Right.
In March of 1621, the surviving settlers went ashore where they were greeted by a member of the Abenaki, and I'm very sorry, most of these I'm probably not going to pronounce. I did look up some pronunciations, but I have a hard time sometimes. So, a member of the Abenaki tribe who spoke to them in English, which surprised them. Several days later, the member of the tribe returned with another Native American, Squanto, and that's the name that he was given, by colonists and white people. He has another name, but he also did go by Squanto. And he was a member of the Pawtuxet tribe who had been kidnapped by an English sea captain and sold into slavery in England. He escaped to London and returned to his homeland on an exploratory edition. Nope, on an exploratory expedition. So Squanto was kidnapped by the English sea captain, sold into slavery, escaped slavery, and then returned to his homeland. And that's why he was able to speak English, because he had spent that time in slavery.
Okay.
Squanto taught the Pilgrims, weakened by malnutrition and illness, how to cultivate corn, extract sap from maple trees, catch fish in the rivers, and avoid poisonous plants. He also helped the settlers forge an alliance with a local tribe called the Wampanoag, and I do believe that's close to the correct pronunciation. In November 1621, after the Pilgrims' first corn harvest proved to be successful, Governor William Bradford organized a celebratory feast and invited a group of the fledgling colony's Native American allies, including the Wampanoag, Chief Massasoit, now remembered as America's quote-unquote first Thanksgiving. Although the Pilgrims themselves may not have used the term at the time, the festival lasted for 3 days. I forgot the P on Pilgrim, so it just says Ilgrims. Motherfucking ill. Pilgrims held their second Thanksgiving celebration in 1623 to mark the end of a long drought that had threatened the year's harvest and prompted Governor Bradford to call for a religious fast. Days of fasting and Thanksgiving on an annual or occasional basis became common practice in other New England settlements as well. During the American Revolution, the Continental Congress designated 1 or more days of Thanksgiving a year, and in 1789, George Washington issued the first Thanksgiving proclamation by the national government of the United States. In it, he called upon Americans to express their gratitude for the happy conclusion to the country's War of Independence and the successful ratification of the U.S. Constitution. So, as noted, this is the Thanksgiving that most of us learned about in school, a mostly happy story where the indigenous peoples that inhabited the land helped the colonists learn how to live on the land and tend to it. Sadly, this is not the whole truth, and this true story is much further from happy. And even more sadly, the American education system failed us time and time again, removing the damning parts of the story that many of us would not learn until later on, if ever. So, like I said,
This pisses me off so much.
oh my God, I know, and like knowing the full thing and knowing what I'm about to read compared to what I did just read infuriates me. And like, what a happy story. We landed here, they helped us, everything was hunky dory. But like, to just
Yeah,
skip out on everything else and to ignore everything else I'm about to share is just absolutely disgusting.
it is. And I remember hearing that, like learning that story as a kid and just having such warm and fuzzy feelings about it and like being proud in a weird
Mm-hmm.
way that I would like lived where that happened, you know?
Right. Like, oh my God, wow, we traveled and we did all these things and we made friends with the natives and everything was happily ever after. And it's like,
Hmm.
no, it's just ever after and ever and ever and ever. Like, we'll get obviously I'm going to get into it more, but it really is. And like, I remember it was either third or fourth grade, I believe. Um, the Wampanoag tribe actually have like I don't know if it's a ceremonial item or if it's just like a traditional item, but it's a set of beads and it can be worn as like a necklace, a belt, and I think it's, oh my God, what is it called? It might actually be called a Wampanoag. I'm gonna look that up and I'll put something in during editing about what
Okay.
it's called.
Hi y'all, editing Sam here. The item that I had made out of the beads in third or fourth grade is called a wampum, and they are beads made from various white and purple mollusk shells, which were and are still used by various native nations throughout northeastern North America for ornamental or ceremonial use. Contrary to misconceptions, wampum was not quote unquote Indian money. Wampum clearly had value as a trade item between the various native peoples before European contact, but it was later on, after European settlement of America, that wampum began to be used like currency. The designs and the colors of the beads used in wampum belts had many meanings, so the belts themselves were mnemonic devices that could aid in the memory about the history, traditions, and laws that the belts had been associated with. Wampum is used to signify the importance or authority of the message associated with it, and as such, treaties and other such agreements would have a large amount of wampum that had been loomed into a belt for them.
But I made one, and I was so proud of it. And it's like, I wasn't doing anything wrong. I did it for a school project, but just knowing that I did that and was so excited and so proud of it, but I was being taught basically to appropriate someone's culture.
Yeah, you didn't know any better.
Right. And like, I don't know, it's just sad.
It is.
So the information that I'm about to read is from Smithsonian Magazine. I'm going to read a lot of it verbatim to avoid missing any of the important information. So in the article, it says, "What really happened at the first Thanksgiving in 1621? The Pilgrims did not introduce the concept of Thanksgiving. The New England tribes already had autumn harvest feasts of Thanksgiving because it was to give thanks. To the original people of this continent, each day is a day of thanksgiving to the Creator. In the fall of 1621, William Bradford, the governor of Plymouth Colony, decided to have a Plymouth Harvest Feast of Thanksgiving and invited Massasoit, the Grand Sachem of the Wampanoag Federation, to join the Pilgrims. Massasoit came with approximately 90 warriors and brought food to the feast, including venison, lobster, fish, wild fowl, clams, oysters, eel, corn, squash, and maple syrup."
Damn.
I know, right? Massasoit and the 90 warriors stayed in Plymouth for 3 days. These original Thanksgiving foods are far different from the meals prepared in modern Thanksgiving today. So, Squanto, who we spoke about previously, he died in 1622, but Massasoit outlived the era of relative peace in colonial New England. And on May 26, 1637, near the present day Mystic River in Connecticut, while their warriors were away, the Wampanoag Confederation's warriors, an estimated 400 to 700 oh gosh. So it's
Just do your
Pequot,
best. You got this.
Pequot women, children, and old men were massacred and burned by combined forces of the Plymouth, Massachusetts Bay, and Saybrook colonies. Colonial authorities found justification to kill most of the Pequot men and enslave the captured women and their children. Pequot, oh God, I hate Pequot slaves were sent to Bermuda and the West Indies. In 1975, the official number of Pequot people living in Connecticut was 21.
Oh my
So
God.
on this day, Thanksgiving, whatever, it wasn't anything like it. These native people helped. And then years later, were all murdered
Yeah.
by the colonists.
For no
Similar
reason.
decline. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just for no reason.
For no reason other than greed to have
Yeah.
the land.
Yeah.
Similar declines in native population took place throughout New England, as an estimated 300,000 Native Americans, or natives, in the article it says Indians, but obviously that's not correct, natives, died by violence, and even more were displaced in New England over the next few decades. So that's how that first quote unquote Thanksgiving went. Everything seemed okay, and then colonists just destroyed it all. Historians estimate that 18 million indigenous people inhabited the North American continent before the 16th century when the colonists arrived. But within years of European colonists arriving, these populations were decimated by about 90%, greatly due to diseases that the colonists brought to the New World, and of course, the violence that was caused by the greed of the colonists.
How many did you say were there? 18 million?
18 million indigenous people inhabited the North American
Okay.
continent,
Okay, yeah.
before the 16th century, and 90% of them were decimated by greedy colonist European white
Because of
people.
the invasive species that is white people.
Caucasian, the caucasity.
Ugh.
And it's hard because I understand that these people were fleeing England because they wanted to practice their own religion, but I feel like if you're really religious, especially because these were Puritans, so that's the Christian faith,
Mhm.
then why do you think you have the right to kill all these other people and take everything from them? Because
Because
obviously it
they're
wasn't
not the
actually
same
about
religion.
religion. Right. Which, like, okay, you were fleeing because of that, so you think you can just make someone else go through the same thing?
God, it just.
Yeah.
I'm
Like,
without words.
I would be fine with not being here today. The indigenous peoples can have their land back.
They were here
Like, or
first.
let's just not take it at all. I don't care. I don't need to exist. Like,
All those people were human fucking beings and they were treated like trash because people who were invading their land that they had been on for just fucking forever felt like
thousands of
they were
years.
owed it.
Yeah.
Felt like it was they were entitled to it for some reason because they found it. No, you didn't.
Right. And then the native people were kind enough to help the white people,
Yeah.
and were from what we know throughout history, were generally decent human beings and probably lived better practices than all of us do.
Hmm.
And then that's how you repay them, by killing and enslaving their people? No. So, within a decade of the Puritans settling on the coast of Massachusetts, it is estimated that the indigenous population fell from 30,000 to 300
Jesus Christ.
in a decade.
Is that all?
And that's
That's all
just
from
on
the disease and the violence and stuff, or did they leave?
from what I read, a lot of it was the disease and violence. Some may have
Okay.
fled, but a lot of them in the 1600s, they didn't necessarily have somewhere to go unless they
Yeah.
found neighboring
True.
tribes. And this is all along the coast of Massachusetts.
Okay.
So that's 30,000 indigenous peoples just in that area, and then down to 300.
That's insane.
You're going to love this sentence.
Am I though?
Massachusetts, no, absolutely not. Massachusetts Bay Colony Governor, John Winthrop, believed that God was driving out the natives because they were all dying of the diseases that John and his buddies brought there. That obviously, well, they didn't have science back then, but like, you just brought a boat full of people and half of them died of disease. So you're going to introduce the rest of them to these people and just be like, here, we have disease.
It makes me so sad that the religion that I grew up not necessarily believing, like I did at some points in my life, but I grew up in that religion. It makes me furious that it has been used and is still being used to hurt people because they don't
Yep.
follow that same religion.
Or they don't look like the people who follow that religion or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, oh, all of these people are dying because God wants them to. Like, that's
That
not,
sounds like a
no.
shitty God.
Yeah, God wouldn't do that if God were real.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. The English initially evangelized the indigenous and built an Indian college at Harvard in the 1650s. They believed conversion was God's will, while the Wampanoag sought solace in the faith after decades of untold deaths. So they're being told by these Puritans, these colonists, that, oh, all you need is God. So if you convert to Christianity, then your people will stop dying. Even though it had nothing to do with that, it had to do with the dirty white people bringing all their dirty diseases.
Yeah. That's so fucked up.
Right. The growing influx of Europeans saw the indigenous tribes of Massachusetts dehumanized and extinguished. I think it's important that we learn more about who the Wampanoag people are, especially as they were one of the main tribes who assisted the colonists when they landed in the world and also in the New World, and were also very much affected by this. Nancy Eldridge, a Naswet, Wampanoag, and Penobscot shared, those are her tribe affiliations, shared some history and information in an article that I found on Plymouth.org. I was a little iffy about using something from an article from Plymouth.org, but knowing that the author is a native person, I was
Yeah.
okay with it. So, from Nancy's article, the Wampanoag are one of many nations of people all over North America who were here long before any Europeans arrived and have survived until today. Many people use the word Indian to describe us, but we prefer to be called Native people. Just so everyone knows, Indian is not the word.
Yeah.
Our name, Wampanoag, means people of the first light. In the 1600s, we had as many as 40,000 people in the 67 villages that made up the Wampanoag Nation. These villages covered the territory along the east coast as far as Wessagusset, today called Weymouth, all of what is now Cape Cod, and the islands of Nantucket and Nope, which is now Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard.
Okay.
And southeast as far as Pokanoket, now Bristol and Rhode Island. We have been living on this part of Turtle Island for over 15,000 years.
Wow.
Yeah. The Wampanoag, like many other native people, often refer to the earth as Turtle Island, which I think is super cute and super cool.
That is cute.
So when I originally read, we have been living on this part of Turtle Island for over 15,000 years, I was like, what? And then to learn that the Wampanoag and other native people call the earth Turtle Island, like that's a way better name than Earth.
I love that.
Me too.
Earth.
Earth. Today, about 4,000 to 5,000 Wampanoag live in New England. There are multiple Wampanoag communities. I'm going to try really hard to read these. Aquina, Mashpee, Herring Pond, Asonet, Chappaquiddick, Pocasset, and Seekonk, with smaller groups and communities across the United States and world. Recently, we also found some of our relations in the Caribbean islands. These people are descendants of native Wampanoag people who were sent into slavery after a war between the Wampanoag and English. We, as the people, still continue our way of life through our oral traditions, ceremonies, the Wampanoag language, song and dance, social gatherings, hunting, and fishing. Other cultures are so beautiful, and I would love to be allowed to attend some of these things to observe and kind of just like see what it's like, because I feel like, for me at least, I don't have this kind of community.
Yeah, other cultures are gorgeous. Specifically though, native people, indigenous people, their culture, I see people like learning more about their own culture like on TikTok and stuff, and I think it's the most beautiful
Mm-hmm.
thing on the planet. And like all the, you know, what's the right word? I want to say outfits, but I feel like that's not the right word. Like the
Garb,
robe,
traditional
garb,
garb.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all that stuff. It's also like from what I've seen is so colorful and it's so just like I don't know how to describe it. I just like I would love to have something like that, but I know it's
Mm-hmm.
not for me, you know.
Right. I completely agree, and I would love just to see it, and like, um, if it, I don't know if that's like overstepping a line, so if that I am, just someone let me know. But if I were to be invited to something like that to observe, or to learn and just kind of like enjoy the spirit of everything, I would love to do that to just see what it feels like, because I know I'll watch videos, especially of traditional dances during different
Mhm.
ceremonies, and they're so beautiful
Mhm.
and they're powerful. And I just think that it's amazing that their culture is all for something.
Yeah.
Like when you're talking about the cultural garb and the spiritual outfits and things like that, they have the clothing and they do these things and wear their hair certain ways because of their beliefs.
Yeah.
Where for me, not growing up religious, not having anything specific, I just wear clothes because I think it looks cool.
Yeah.
Like there's so much depth to it, and it the way that they worship Mother Earth and the Creator, but don't make it so much like about like, I don't know how to put this.
Like every single thing has meaning. Every
Right, and the
single thing.
traditions they have are to help everyone, and it doesn't seem, from what I've learned, that they use their traditions to harm other people. And I know in a
Mhm.
lot of indigenous cultures they have gay people, trans people, two-spirit people. So they're just accepting, as this is how you came from the Creator. We're going
Mhm.
to love you, and we are a community, we're a tribe, we're a family, we're going to take care of each other
Mhm.
regardless. And it's so beautiful. And
It
I
is.
I feel like a long time ago my mom said we might have some Native American or indigenous in our family tree somewhere, and I'd really like to get an ancestry test done to see if it is,
You
because we
should.
do live in an area, the Salamanca reservation is 30 minutes from me. So it's totally possible that there is some, and I would love to find out, because I would love to learn more just because it's so
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I think I
definitely.
might ask for an ancestry kit for Christmas.
Hell yeah. You got to keep us updated.
Hell yeah. I'm going to be so sad when it's like Irish, Scandinavian, German, Swedish.
Yeah, from what
I
I
know
know,
I'm
I'm
definitely
I'm like
Swedish.
I'm Swedish too. I think I'm German. I don't know.
We're very Swedish. I can't remember. I think it was my grandma's mom or my grandma's grandma that went to Ellis Island from Sweden. So we've got a lot of Swedish. My other side, there's a lot of Swedish. My last name is German. I don't know how German, and I'm kind of scared to look into that further, because like East Germany or West Germany, you know what I'm saying?
Oh no.
um, but yeah, I would just really like to find out.
Yeah, you should.
So as I was saying, the Wampanoag people continue to live their way of life, and the Wampanoag homeland provided bountiful food for fulfillment of all of our needs. I'm reading this as she's writing it.
Mhm.
It was up to the people to keep the balance and respect for all living beings, and to receive gifts from the Creator, or to receive all the gifts from the Creator, meaning good, bad, indifferent.
Mhm.
We were seasonal people living in the forest and valleys during winter. During the summer, spring, and fall, we moved to the rivers, ponds, and ocean to plant crops, fish, and gather foods from the forests. I have chills all over my body. It just sounds beautiful.
It does.
Because of many changes in North America, we as the Wampanoag people cannot live as our ancestors did. We adapt, but we still continue to live in the way of the people of First Light. I just thought that was beautiful.
That is.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed reading all of that.
Yeah, it's good to hear like from someone who experiences that, you know?
Hmm. And do you know that meme of the indigenous girl who is saying fuck Christopher Columbus?
Hmm.
So on one of these articles, I can't remember which one, there's actually the video that has her and several other indigenous peoples like talking about this. I think I'm going to share the link for it or maybe find a clip and
I
share
think I've
that.
seen that, but
Um
yeah.
I don't think I didn't get a chance to watch the whole thing, but I read the article that went with it. Um it's important to acknowledge the massacres and the fact that colonists not only killed and enslaved the native people of North America, but to understand that this history has been erased in textbooks and ignored throughout American history. And I can't get over that fact. Like
Yeah.
I remember following so blindly in school, even up
Hmm.
till middle school, and I don't even maybe freshman year of high school. Like Flag Day is great. I'm going to pledge allegiance. We're going to, celebrate the red, white, and blue, and to learn that it's all built on the bones of native people just pisses me the fuck off and makes me sad, but then we don't even learn about it.
Yeah,
It's like disgusting.
it is. It is, and I just think about like growing up, my childhood favorite movie was Pocahontas,
Hmm.
and I don't know exactly what happened to the real Pocahontas, but I know it's nowhere near anything that was portrayed in that
Hmm.
movie. Um, and also the movie Brother Bear. Did you ever see that?
Yeah, I loved that movie.
I did too, and it's just like people's culture is made into like
Fairy
a
tales.
yeah, fairy tale or like something that's not real, kind of,
Hmm.
or just like something.
Fictionalized.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, and it's just I can't imagine being somebody who practices those things and seeing it used in that way as like a kind of a joke a little bit. I don't
Right.
know.
Well, right, like fictionalized to a way where it's like, oh, this is a Disney movie where it's magic and the tree talks to Pocahontas
Yeah,
and bears can talk and like all these things where like Pocahontas fell in love with John, and that's John Winthrop here who said that God was driving out the natives by killing them.
yeah. What a great
And to
guy.
just like take that and twist it to no end is just so disgusting.
It is.
And that wasn't even her real name.
What was her real name?
I'm pretty sure, let me look it up real quick, but I'm pretty sure that was not her real name. Um, so it's Amonute, um, Amonute, and then she also had a more private name of Matoeka, and she was called Pocahontas as a nickname, which meant playful one, and then
Mm,
they just ran with that because, of course, it was easier to pronounce and it's got the fun name. But yeah, that's not even like her actual name, and there's no mention of that in the movie. They're not like,
yeah,
sometimes there will be storylines where you can find out why someone has a nickname, but not there.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is like very privileged of me, but it's very hard for me to process these things and like not it's I believe that they are real and that they happened, but it's very hard for me to like wrap my head around it because
Mm-hmm.
I've never experienced anything like that. I don't know. It's
Right.
hard to find the words.
Well, it's not an experience that we lived now or ancestrally, and you can
Hmm.
have that trauma that's passed down through your DNA. So it's like
Yeah,
we don't know what that's like, and it's mind-boggling. Just like
it
all of
is.
these mass occurrences of genocide.
Hmm.
It's awful, and I think because we haven't experienced anything like that, and also because we could never imagine doing that to anyone. It's like, this doesn't make any sense, which is true. It's a senseless thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like our whole childhood was a lie, basically.
Yeah,
While other indigenous children
it really was.
had to grow up knowing that. Yeah. I don't know. I hate it.
Right. And I mean, and it follows. I mean, indigenous people were enslaved, and then black people were enslaved, and then
Uh-oh.
indigenous people were segregated, and then black people were segregated, and it still lives on. Like, there's the reservations and the different lands that are specifically, quote unquote, reallocated to indigenous people, which is somewhat of a step in the right direction. But just the fact that, like, in these schools, if you're not an indigenous person who's living near a reservation that has a school, you're going to a public school. So you're learning all these
Mm-hmm.
things, and it's like, I'm going to this place and being taught the opposite of what our ancestors and our families know to be true.
Right, right.
It's just really unfair.
It is. I think sometime in the month of November, I'm going to do an episode or two about residential schools. I know I talked about it when
Yeah.
we first started this podcast, but I've kind of shied away from it because it's very hard to read about. But I'd also like to educate people on it because not a lot of people know about it.
Okay. Yeah, but I would like to shed light on that as well.
Definitely.
Let's see here. While colonists' ideals of how Thanksgiving took place continue to be taught in white society, current day Native and Indigenous people live November and Thanksgiving in a greatly different reality. As I noted before, it's very important to me that I get as much information from reliable sources as possible. And during my research, I came upon an article from nativehope.org that describes some of the feelings and practices of Native folk during Thanksgiving time. The name of the article is The History of Thanksgiving from the Native American Perspective. It was published November 23rd, 2022, so around last Thanksgiving. There's no like author attributed to it, but it is accredited to Native Hope.
Okay.
I've got some excerpts to read from the article. There are always two sides to a story. Unfortunately, when it comes to the history of Thanksgiving, generations of Americans have been taught a one sided history in homes and schools. The dominant cultural and historical story has been told from the perspective of the white colonist who landed near Plymouth Rock in Massachusetts in 1620. In this version of the Thanksgiving story, the holiday commemorates the peaceful, friendly meeting of English settlers and the Wampanoag tribe for 3 days of feasting and Thanksgiving in 1621. Every year, news outlets and social media are abuzz with Thanksgiving themes. There is little coverage of the fact that November is Native American Heritage Month, or that the day after Thanksgiving, which is known to most as Black Friday, is Native American Heritage Day. The mainstream version of the Thanksgiving story paints a picture of courageous Christian settlers braving the perils of the New World and the help of some friendly natives finding a way to make a new life for themselves. In the days around Thanksgiving, many teachers focus on this happy story, helping students make American Indian headdresses out of construction paper and holding Thanksgiving reenactments in their classrooms.
Ugh.
Very few teachers, yeah. That's something I don't believe I ever did. Thank God. Um, and even though I didn't
I did.
understand it when
I
I was
remember doing that.
yeah, which is not your fault at all. Like, no.
Yeah.
Um, very few teachers realize that construction of headdresses and school reenactments create a lump stereotype that Native Americans all wear the same regalia. These school activities also encourage young students to think it is okay to wear culture as a costume. This makes it hard for students to recognize the diversity of Native American tribes and make students believe it's okay to mimic Native American traditional wear without having an understanding of its spiritual significance,
Hmm.
which
Did the
we
teachers
were
not
taught.
realize, or are they fully aware, but they're just doing what they're told to do?
I think probably when we were kids, it was there wasn't a realization. Now, if they're doing that, that's a whole different discussion.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard about the story of the two local men here who went to a Halloween party, I believe it was last year, at one of the local, like, rod and gun clubs and dressed up as lawn jockeys and did full blackface.
Did they get beat the fuck up? What the hell?
Almost. They definitely got kicked out of the party, and then I don't know, people were bashing the fuck out of them on on Facebook, including me, because
Good.
it's disgusting. It was
Good.
two old white men,
Of course. It always
of
is.
course. Yeah. But it's just like if people teach people that this is okay, then shit like that is going to happen. And I mean, it was 2022. There Black Lives Matter is still and was still very much in effect. So it's just like it goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
Oppressed, let's dress up as oppressed people and be goofy. Like, no, that's not the same thing. It was
It's not a
disgusting.
joke.
Maybe I'll find some more info and share it on here, and if not, I'll just send it to you, because in the fact that it happened so close. I mean, I live in a small town. We live really close to PA, which is very much a red state, so I'm not
Yeah.
that surprised. But it was still like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Gross.
Very few teachers get a chance to tell students about the massacres of native tribes that took place in the years that followed. They also do not mention that English settlers robbed Wampanoag graves and stole food from them in order to survive during their first years on this new continent.
Stealing from graves? Are you kidding me? How can that
That's a
ever be
whole different
justified?
level. Yeah.
That's
And for
fucking
what?
disgusting.
Right. Like, in
That's
more
so
ways than
gross.
one, too. Morally gross, physically gross. Ugh. And also think about those families. Like,
Yeah.
no one thinks about how they affect other people.
It's always all about them.
Yup. Thanksgiving is also a national day of mourning. It is important to know that for many Native Americans, Thanksgiving is a day of mourning and protest, since it commemorates the arrival of settlers in North America and the centuries of oppression and genocide that followed. Organized by the United American Indians of New England in 1970, the fourth Thursday in November, which is also recognized as Thanksgiving in a classic U.S. calendar, is recognized as the National Day of Mourning for Native Americans and their allies. Many people gather at Coles Hill in Plymouth for an organized rally and day of mourning on Thanksgiving. Here's what they have to say about this choice to mourn. Thanksgiving is a Thanksgiving Day is a reminder of the genocide of millions of Native people, the theft of Native lands, and the relentless assault on Native culture. Participants in National Day of Mourning honor Native ancestors and the struggles of Native peoples to survive today. It is a day of remembrance and spiritual connection, as well as a protest of the racism and oppression which Native Americans continue to experience. Some
Okay.
Native Americans mourn blah, blah, blah. Some Native Americans mourn publicly and openly, while some simply refrain from participating in this national holiday, which totally up to them, 1,000%.
Hmm.
If it's too painful or you simply don't want to, it is. But I kind of think now in the back of my head, I'll be thinking of National Day of Mourning for
Yeah.
natives instead of Thanksgiving, and trying to be an ally for them. The article also noted that Thanksgiving is already a way of life for Native Americans and already was. Long before settlers arrived, Native tribes were celebrating the autumn harvest and the gift of Mother Earth's abundance. Native American spirituality, both traditionally and today, emphasizes gratitude for creation, care for the environment, and recognition of the human need for communion with nature and others. Which makes me think, I wonder what the Earth's state would be in regards to global warming if we hadn't colonized.
Probably a lot better.
Yeah,
That's
I
something
don't
I've been
think
like
things would.
freaked out about recently because it's October and it was like 65 degrees here today when last year it was in the 40s.
Hmm. Yeah, every year the winter comes later, stays later, but is more unpredictable or
Hmm.
like varying. So, but yeah, I wonder like if we adopted more of these ideals, if we would just be better off in general.
Probably.
Thanksgiving as a holiday originates from the Native American philosophy of giving without expecting anything in return. Oh, I could just cry because that's a huge thing for me. Um, in the first celebration of this holiday, the Wampanoag tribe not only provided the food for the feast, but also the teachings of agriculture and hunting to the colonists. And lastly, I have a message here that I found on nativehope.org, and it's a message from Native Hope, the organization, regarding the real meaning of Thanksgiving. And I thought it would be nice to sum up with some, more inspirational words from them.
Yes.
Here at Native Hope, oh, yes. Here at Native Hope, we hope that this Thanksgiving, the hearts of all people, native and non native, are filled with hope, healing, and a desire to dismantle the barriers physical, economic, educational, psychological, and spiritual that divide us and depress us. This time of year and these two holidays, Thanksgiving and Native American Heritage Day, give us the opportunity to reflect on our collective history and to celebrate the beauty, strength, and resilience of the native tribes of North America. We remember the generosity of the Wampanoag tribe to the helpless settlers. We remember the hundreds of thousands of Native Americans who lost their lives at the hands of colonists and the genocides of whole tribes. We remember the vibrant and powerful Native descendants, families, and communities that persist to this day throughout the culture and the country. We remember people like Sharice Davids and Interior Secretary Deb Haaland, who became the first Native American women to serve as cabinet secretary. Um, I have chills all over. My face is literally has chills
Yeah,
on it.
that's
Um,
beautiful.
so beautiful and just so sad that that has to be out there at all, but like I wish I could like somehow broadcast this message to every single person that exists
Even if you
because
could, would they listen
it's
to it?
not probably not, but maybe someone would that could then somehow influence more. I don't know if that's the hardest thing is I can talk until my face is blue, but if people aren't willing to listen,
Yeah.
then it's not helpful. But I feel like the people that we have listening probably generally um at least know a little bit about the real background of Thanksgiving, but hopefully
Hmm.
this message like hits them really hard. And I'm going to read that first part one more time just because it was really beautiful.
Yeah.
Here at Native Hope, we hope that this Thanksgiving, the hearts of all people, native and non native, are filled with hope, healing, and a desire to dismantle the barriers physical, economic, educational, psychological, and spiritual that divide us and oppress us. This time of year and these two holidays, Thanksgiving and Native American Heritage Day, give us the opportunity to reflect on our collective history and to celebrate the beauty, strength, and resilience of the native tribes of North America.
Yep.
We got to do it, guys. We have to recognize that although we sitting here today on this earth are not the ones responsible for these heinous acts, that it is still our duty as the ancestors of those people to try to
Acknowledge it.
reconcile the wrongs that have been done. I'm sorry, what did you
Yeah.
say?
I just said acknowledge it.
Right? And I'm not saying that we need to do anything crazy to acknowledge or reconcile. It's really just more that is let people exist, work towards change on higher levels, as in governmentally, that are going to create equality, not even equality, equity, because equity is more important. Everyone can have equal, but if you have three people, I might have talked about this on here before. But there is a really good graphic that I love that talks about equity versus equality. So you have a fence that's 5 foot tall, and you have
Mhm.
three people standing behind it. The first person's 6 feet, the second person's 5 feet, and the third person's 3 feet. Well, if you give them all a stool to stand on that's the same height, sure, they have the same stool, but they can, still not all of them can see over the fence.
Mhm.
Equity would be giving them all a stool that makes them the same height.
Yes.
It's making sure that the starting line is the same for everyone, and because the starting line was not the same, we need to acknowledge that and create a conversation around just treating people fucking fairly
Just let people
and
exist
helping
and like
them. Right.
we're all human beings, no matter what culture we are, what race, what sexuality, what anything. Like we're all human beings at the end of the day.
You're right. Even if you're not going to rallies and fighting and doing all of these things, simply acknowledging to yourself that our culture as white people is not culture. It is stolen land,
Yep.
stolen rights, bodies, just all of these negative things. And if we choose now to make it better, we can somehow, eventually, it might take a long time and we might just be the catalyst for it, be
Gotta
what
start
ignites that
somewhere.
change. Right. And I saw this TikTok the other day, and it was a trans man singing about how someone was like, well, when the aliens dig up your skeletons, they'll know that you are a woman. And it, like, first of all, that's scientifically incorrect, but at the end of the day, when your body decomposes and you're, why are
The
there,
hell was
did you see that?
that? Yeah. What
That
was
was
that?
freaky. Was it like something that I have that I didn't know I had? Weird. I did
Somebody's
not like that.
agreeing with you.
Oh, I hope so. I hope I'm doing something good. But
So
anyways, at the
for
end of
the
the,
for the for the people who are just listening, Sam and I can see each other on our computers, and next to her head, this little thought bubble came up with a thumbs up. Really randomly. That's never happened before. That was weird.
it had a thumbs up in it. I didn't even see that.
Yeah, it had a thumbs up in it.
What the fuck? I'm freaked out, dude. Oh my god,
That was
who is
weird.
here with us? God, I hope it's Squanto liking what I'm
Yeah,
sharing about him and his culture.
it
That's what my
definitely wasn't
belief is
me.
going to be because I'm too freaked out. I didn't,
I'm gonna.
there's no options for anything like that on here.
Yeah, that was really weird.
Oh, I can't, when I edit, I'm going to be freaked out. Now I'm like, is there something behind me?
There's a freaking
Whew.
gnat in this room that won't get out of my face.
Startle me, Papa. But okay, I'm gonna try to say this again and finish it. Hopefully, I don't get any more weird things. Um, at the end of your life, your body is going to turn to dust in the ground, and no one's gonna know you from anyone else. They can't, unless they extract your DNA, which they're not going to. I'm just talking about looks. They're gonna look at
Mhm.
those bones and say, hey, that was a person. and it is extremely scientifically difficult for them to determine biological sex of a skeleton. They can't, even with DNA, they can't look at a skeleton and say, oh, this person was native and XYZ. No, we
Mhm.
are all just sacks of flesh on bones with the same color blood running through us. And none of us are better than the others based upon anything but individual merit and character.
Yep.
And to be worse than someone else, you got to have a really bad merit or character, like these colonists and John, what's his nuts. We're not even going to say his last
Winthrop.
name because he doesn't deserve it. Yes. But
Oops.
I like how you're like, let me help. But yeah, that is my soapbox, and I am still going to be on it, but for a very good purpose. I know it is. I was going to say I believe I know it is because human rights are important, and
Yeah.
natives continue to suffer every day. And if Haley does end up talking about residential schools, you'll find out why I say that they continue to suffer every day. So,
Yeah. And
yeah.
it will never not infuriate me that talking about human rights has been turned into a political stance. It shouldn't be political.
It shouldn't even be able to be voted on.
Yeah.
It's just because they have the power and they want to tell people what to do. I won't go into all of my beliefs on that. We could have a discussion about that separately, but what it all boils down to is money and power. They're going
Yeah.
to do anything that they can to stay in power and to make us all poor.
Definitely. And I
Yes.
am going to probably talk about residential schools. If anybody listening has any really good resources or wants to give their input or anything, I am open to learning more because I've already done some research on it. But I would like to get some like reputable resources and like voices. And Sam, if you have any you want to send me, and we could figure
Okay.
out if we want to do like a split two-parter. So
Okay, yeah, I think that could be good, especially if it's a lot and it's very heavy. But you guys can
mhm.
send us that information on Instagram at Educate Me Papa, on Facebook at Educate Me Papa the podcast, or via email, which might be the easiest if it's links and a lot of information, at educatemepapa@gmail.com. I'm not like cutting it off. I just want to make sure everyone knows where they can send stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is
Well, that was
the true history of Thanksgiving.
interesting. I definitely learned some things I didn't know. So thank you for doing all that research.
Yes, and I'm very
Yeah.
glad that it did teach some things and that I was able to find as much as I did.
hmm
Because it's important, and I think everyone should go check out nativehope.org if they want to hear some more from native folks.
hmm
And you know, if you have, I know that we have resources in our area, or I do at least, where there are different cultural centers where you can visit. And I did go when we went to Letchworth,
Yes.
and they had that big rocks thing.
hmm
They were selling all the crystals. Well, they have a educational center as well for people to learn about native people because that Allegheny is very much native land.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I definitely want to physically go and learn more, and not just go out to the reservation to go gamble, but I'll give the natives my money.
Oh man, well, that was a good one.
Thank you. I'm
Good
glad.
work.
I'm very proud of it. So
Well, you want to get out of here?
yeah, I gotta take a tinkle.
Same. All right,
Well,
friends.
everyone, as always,
Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening.
I am so grateful
Thank you for listening.
for listening. Your ears are very nice.
You got nice ear holes.
Well, your ear holes look great right now from where I'm looking at them.
All right, now that we have been creepy, we're gonna
At
go.
least once an episode. Yes.
True.
We'll see
All
you
right.
next time.
Toodaloo. Bye.
Bye. We love you.